Dear Dharma teachers and fellow practitioners, please turn to your material for item number 6 that we discussed last night, which says the foundation of cultivation is 3 felicities. To deal with others, one should follow the principle of 6 harmonies. We have fellow practitioners very kind when they notice there are other people has problems or made mistakes, and our fellow practitioners like to help them correct that problems or mistakes. However, due to the complexity of karma, condition, and causes, it is not so simple that we try to help others. We all know that in order to effectively help others, we need to first help ourselves. But oftentimes, when we encounter with a situation, we forgot about this statement. So we really need to put this kind intention aside, practice very hard to improve our own moral conduct, to improve our samadhi and wisdom. Then we can always come back to help others. It will never be too late. So we need to really cultivate harder if you truly want to help others. The material or handout we give everyone tonight talk about Buddha's disciple should cultivate for themselves the inner qualities called the 5 virtues. And to deal with environment or people externally, Buddhist disciples should cultivate 6 harmonies. The 5 virtues are actually conditions or requirements provided by Confucius. That is the requirement for a student, and is also the standard to be a gentleman in the society. These 5 virtues are gentleness, kind, careful and sincere, frugal, and patience. These are Confucius' words of wisdom. The 6 harmonies are actually the teachings from Lord Buddha. And these 6 items are to share the same viewpoint, to cultivate the same types of precepts, to live in the same living standards, to deal each other with harmonious speech and no harsh languages, to have the same enjoyment about life, and finally, to share the same economic life. The 6 harmony, the very first one of the 6 harmonies is to share the same viewpoint. There's a Chinese proverb says, if the family are in harmonious opinions, then that family is bound to be prosperous. In the ancient China and India, those great sage people or holy people emphasize a lot about the importance and harmony of a family. which is the foundation of the society. In the ancient China, we use proper order to conduct or governing the country instead of rule the country with law, because proper order do consider individual situation or special cases, while the law is ruthless. It's very strict and do not consider special cases. In the so-called Golden Palace of Peking, where the king or the emperor lives, when you visit that place, actually there are three major palaces. The first one is called the Supreme Harmony, Temple of the Supreme Harmony, or Palace of the Supreme Harmony. The one behind that palace is called the Medium Harmony Palace. And the last one would be the Encompassing Harmony Palace. And all these words actually come from the I Ching, Chinese ancient philosophy book. So from these title of the emperor's palaces, it clearly describes the importance of harmony, and that's why it's used as a title for the emperor's palaces. Likewise, the harmony of a temple is very important. If a temple and the members within that temple are in total harmony, then Buddha will bestow his blessing to the place and the people of that temple, and the celestial beings will also protect that place because of it is in great harmony. And we also remember there's a statement in the homage. The last one says, we take homage to Sangha, which is the most precious among all groups, most respectful among all groups. Why is that so respectful? Because there are many types of organizations and groups in the society. Only the Sangha society is most harmonious because they possess 6 harmonies. Unfortunately, today, the harmonies is not easy to be seen. And the reason is because everyone has their own opinions, and opinions differs from each other, causing disharmonies. And that's why if we want to have a harmonious group or society, we need to establish the so-called common understanding. Only with that foundation, the 6 harmonies can be accomplished. If one applies the principle of 6 harmonies to a family, then that family is bound to be happy and satisfied. The Pure Land School used 5 sutras and 1 discussion as the main spiritual guidance. When compared with other schools or sects, the Pure Land School has the least sutras or books to follow. And therefore, it is relatively easy to remember and to put into practice, because the guideline is not so complicated. Only 5 sutras and 1 discussion. When I advise my disciple or students to recite any one of these sutras, for particularly Infinite Life Sutra, for at least 3,000 times, people often get scared about this ruthless requirement. Actually, only if you recite or read for 3,000 times, then the meaning of the sentences of the sutra will be deeply rooted into your mind. In your daily life, when dealing with people or affairs, the meaning of the statements can come out easily from your mind to remind you how to deal with the situation. On the other hand, if you do not recite 3,000 times, by the time you need to use them, you don't remember the content of the chanting. It's almost like the other situation of chanting Buddha's name to the state of no chanting and yet is continuously chanting. Without intention to chant, it continues chant. While chanting, there's no self which is doing the chanting. That's a higher level state of practicing Buddha name chanting. But ironically, if you don't recite 3,000 times, you are in a similar situation. You are chanting, but when the time you want to use it, there was no chanting, no statement in your mind to remind you of what to do. So, to really put into practice in a daily life, all the key guidelines are covered in the material, which are the 3 felicities, 5 virtues, 6 harmonies, 3 practices, 6 pratimitas, and 10 great vows. These guidelines are simple but very clear. Only if you sincerely put into practice and truthfully satisfy these requirements, you are bound to go to Buddha's Pure Land with assurance. But if you only knows about this and not put into practice sincerely, although you may have a good intention and heart, try to help others. You may be able to speak beautifully, but you will not convince people. As a matter of fact, people may laugh about you behind your back. So I advise you to put into practice, truthfully follow these principles in your daily life for 10 years. And when you truly attain these so-called moral conducts or standards, then when you apply the teaching to others, you'll find, surprisingly, it's very easy to make other people believe, because you have set up a very good example, and that's most convincing to wake up people. Take a look of our Pure Land Patriarch, the 13th Patriarch, Most Venerable Yingguang Dashi. At age 70, he came out to help sentient beings. And when he came out, he actually helped tremendous people of his time. And that is because he has very profound and stable foundation. So if a person has that strong foundation, he talks to people with things that he already obtained. It is very convincing. The people will listen to his advice. The second harmony is to cultivate together by sharing the same precepts. In a country, there's a law. For a family, there's a family rules or guidelines. Precepts are for Buddhist organizations. The precepts were originally set by Buddha Sakyamuni. We need to understand the meaning behind the precepts. In general, the Theravada Buddhism precepts are dealing more with refraining from doing evil of all kinds. And in general, the Mahayana Buddhism precepts are dealing with conduct all goodnesses. Actually, in Buddhism, there's only one yana. Now, how come there are 3 yanas, sometimes 5 yanas, as given by Lord Buddha Sakyamuni? It is Buddha Sakyamuni's experience to have people of different capacities to follow the best type of precepts that they can follow. For the Mahayana, for the Theravada Buddhists, they want to eradicate the attachment to self or egoistic self. That's their main goal. For the Mahayana Buddhists, the main goal is not only cut off attachment to self, but also attachment to Dharma. And then the yana state is for those great Bodhisattva. They have cut off attachment to self, Dharma, but even enter into the elimination of the very small portion of the fundamental ignorance. And that's the state of their spiritual achievement, the so-called Dhammadhatu of the complete realistics. If one violates precepts corresponding to Theravada Buddhism, then one will go to the 3 lowest realms due to the bad karma. If one has the goal, wish to be born into Buddha's Pure Land, then not only one need to follow those precepts that Theravada Buddhists follow, but also to actively conduct all kinds of good activities, accumulate various virtues, and particularly actions and virtues corresponding to the great vows of Buddha Amitabha. Other than the precepts, additional things such as customs, law, rules of a society or a group, a good Buddhist should follow all these. And then your behavioral conduct in that country or environment will be respected by others, and the Buddha Dharma will be welcomed by that society. The third one is to live together in harmony physically. Oh, this is not easy. The next one is to deal with each other with soft and polite languages without argument. And the next one is to enjoy the same kind of a pleasure. Let's go back to the first one, to live together in harmony physically. Because lifetime was from beginning of no beginning, and therefore the accumulation of habitual patterns accumulated from time without beginning. There are tremendous habits contained within oneself. Examples is a young child without teaching. If you give him a piece of sugar or candy, and then you take that piece away, this child will become mad or angry right away without anybody teaching so. This is an example or evidence that a young child without learning automatically possess this inherited 3 poisons from previous lifetimes. In the public, we can behave ourselves physically with proper manners. But at the night time, when we go back to our room or bedroom, oftentimes we become sloppy and careless. That's why in the traditional Buddhist temple, even at night time, all monks are asleep together in a huge wide bed, so that there is no privacy. You must constantly live in an open space, and you must constantly control your behavior. This is just like the training in the military. At the daytime, the soldiers are trained rigorously. At night time, they also sleep together without privacy on a huge bed, so that one monitor each other. You see, in the army or military training, if the soldier has privacy and they are not constantly under close monitoring, then there may be revolution. And when the soldier or army give a revolution, it's a terrible thing. So this is similar to Buddhist training for a monk. We need to be constantly watch our behavior, whether daytime or nighttime during sleep. The dealing with each other with soft languages or polite languages without argument is easy to understand. And the next one, to enjoy the same pleasure. This part is also important. If you have the same pleasure as that of your colleagues or your fellow Buddhists, then you all can enjoy things together. And then you all will be happy and smile. When a person do not have a happy face, then he or she probably going to have physical problem. Because when you do not enjoy the pleasure or without happiness, then you're going to look with a face like sick person. The last one is to share the same economic life and profits equally. The reason we all practice Buddha Dharma and not achieve spiritual achievement or attainment is because of this item. It's because we have greedy mind to seek after fame or profits and keep it to ourselves. On the other hand, we are able to get together and practice supreme teaching given in the Pure Land sect is an indication of excellent karma. According to the sutra, this excellent karma was accumulated through many, many lifetimes, through the merits of offerings to many, many numbers of Buddhas. If that's true, now how come we are still in this infinite cycle of life and death, like today? The reason is because the greedy mind seek for fame and profit, try to keep things to ourselves. In order to, or if seriously want to get out of samsara and no more reincarnation, we must put down the attachment to fame and profits. Ordinary people are always fighting for fame and profits for themselves. On the contrary, Buddha and Bodhisattvas, they do not seek for these things for themselves. So I said sometimes in mainland China, only Buddha or the great Bodhisattvas are the true communists, because they share their properties with all others with an equal mind and no selfishness. If you do have selfishness, then you are not a true communist. You are violating the principle of sharing properties. You still have self-interest for yourself. And that's why when I mention this kind of statement, receive tremendous welcome from the communist friends in mainland China. The 6 harmonies are equally important to the fundamental 5 precepts and 10 heavy precepts. There is 5 severe violations in the Buddha Dharma. And one day I remember an old friend of mine, a Buddhist layperson by the name of Zhao Moling. He invited me to his house one time. He was very worried about the situation. That is concerning the 5 severe violations. He told me these 5 violations are killing one's father, killing one's mother, make Buddha bleed, or kill a holy arahant. These are not easy to happen. But the last one of the 5 severe violations, break the harmonious Sangha group apart. That's one of the 5 severe ones. Things happening, and I'm very worried about the result of those people who has violated this severe one. I looked at him and said, you tell me, do you see a temple, a Buddhist organization that is in total harmony and satisfy the 6 harmonies as described in the sutra? He think about it. He said, not really. Then I said, so there was no problem. The groups are not all harmonious already. So what about break a harmonious group? It does not exist. So there's nothing to violate about. Therefore, we realize to have harmonious viewpoint and live together and follow the 6 principles of harmonies is very rare and not easy to achieve. The Chinese proverb said, for just 3 persons, if they have the same single mind, the power put together from just 3 persons can break the gold or metal. That is because when they share the same mind, same viewpoint, then they can generate tremendous power. In the Chinese history, during the establishment of a new dynasty, the emperor was always able to do that. The famous examples are Liu Bang in a 3 countries period of time, follow leading other famous subordinates like Guan Gong, Zhang Fei, and Zhuge Liang. Because they are harmonious in their heart and thinking, they can establish a country strong enough to compete with 2 other countries in that time. And then, when they all passed away, the successors do not have single mind or cohesive thinking together, and their generation soon extinguished from the history. The importance of harmony is so strong, so critical, that even within oneself, just a person, we still need harmony. The harmony between the body and mind. If you do not have harmony within yourself, between body and mind, then illness will come. Due to limitation of time tonight, I'm going to proceed and discuss the next one, which is to deal with worldly affairs. One need to cultivate or practice 6 paramitas. The 6 paramitas are the essential teachings or guideline observed by a Bodhisattva. By following these guidelines, a Bodhisattva will be able to touch the heart of others. And these 6 paramitas are basically almsgiving, precept following, patience, diligence, wisdom, and samadhi. And I will explain to you item by item. Bodhisattvas, Arahant, the Holy Being, and us are all the disciples or students of Buddha. If the students have a strong desire to learn and practice, and was able to meet a great teacher under a good karmic condition, then there will be spiritual achievement. And what is a good karmic connection or condition? Basically, it is the sincerity of the student. If the student is very sincere and highly respectful to his teacher, then he can learn fast and making spiritual progress. Otherwise, he would pay less attention to teacher's teaching, not to say follow it and put into practice. So if the teacher treats a student with polite, that's an indication that the student is not very sincere. In order not to make enemy for the teacher treat that kind of student very polite. On the other hand, if the student is very good and sincere, then the teacher will treat him with almost ruthless attitude, because the teacher realizes, with such good material, if I don't do the best, I'm not fulfilling my duties. We have heard about the 6 paramitas many times, and we probably pay less attention to that. But to be a true Bodhisattva, these 6 paramitas must be practiced to a full extent. I remember when I was young and the first time met the great master Zhangjia Dashi, I asked him a question with great sincerity. My question was, is there any method that can help myself to reach spiritual achievement quickly? He looked into my eyes without a word for half hour, and I stayed in that state, looking back into his eyes to almost enter into samadhi state. Then one word uttered from his mouth, yes. Then there's another silence or pause for 5 more minutes. He said, see it through, put it down. Only 6 words. Now, think about it. I feel I can understand and comprehend its meaning. So I ask, how to put this see it through and put it down into practice? He advised me sincerely, just doing almsgiving or give things away, particularly your most valuable things that's difficult to give away. Start with that. And after that meeting, he saw me to the gate and held my hand sincerely, said, I have given you a valuable teaching of the 6 words. I wish you practice sincerely for 6 years. Because the teaching was received in such a special situation, I was honestly put into practice for 6 years. And the good reward was, with 6 years of trying to give up things that's difficult to give up, that create a good karma for me to become a monk. Just like the spiritual prediction of Pure Land students, if they reach spiritual achievement, they will be able to foresee or predict the time of death. I too, due to the practice of 6 words sincerely for 6 years, I developed an insight, a hunch that I know I will become a monk. And my friends asked me, when do you think you will become a monk? I told them, pretty soon, probably within 6 months. Actually, was less than 1 month. I became a monk because Lingji Temple sent people to my places and request me to become a monk for 9 times. So you see, for me to become a monk, it was due to other people's persuasion. It's not I begged them to accept me as a monk. It was them begged me to become a monk for 9 times. Due to their sincerity, I became a monk. To put 6 paramitas into practice, one must first have a thorough understanding of its meaning. Then one can put into practice effectively. There is another person I owe great I owe great gratefulness to him. That is Mr. Zhu Jingzhou, because he gave me a book famous in Chinese history called The 4 Precious Lessons of Mr. Yuan Liaofan. And I read that book many times. I compare myself against Mr. Yuan Liaofan. I'm similar to his situation, but actually worse than him. I have all the problems and troubles just like the author of that book. And after reading so many times, I firmly believe to just drink a cup of water or eat a meal, it is all predetermined from your personal fate. And that's why I encourage my students or friends to read at least 300 times of this 4 precious lessons. Then you will have thorough understanding and a firm belief about this book, which deal with the law of cause and conditions. If one has wealth and longevity of one's life, it is because one has created the proper course in previous lifetimes in order to enjoy the wealth and longevity of this life. However, this fate of this life can be changed. If one cut off all the wrong habits, wrong actions, and one's fate will turn into better. Take the giving away, for example, or alms giving. If you give away more money or wealth from your savings, and the result is you obtain more money in return. If you give away more teachings, then in return you become wiser. If you offering fearless statement to help those who are depressed or troubled, then in return of your kindness, you're going to have a good karma of long life and good health. All of us like to have wealth, wisdom, health, and longevity, but we just don't put into practice to accumulate the causes that result in the good results. When I was young, I was skinny, and my face, according to the fortune teller, is a face of short life. They actually predicted that my life expectancy will not go beyond 45 years of age. And that's probably my previous lifetime. I only emphasized the practice of wisdom and ignored accumulation of merits. And also it's true because my ancestors are all short life. So at the age of 45, I was very ill. And I give up to see doctors because I know doctors can cure the illness, but they cannot prolong life expectancy. So I just give up and sit in my place or home, recite Buddha name, waiting for Buddha to take me away to his Pure Land. Surprisingly, 1 month later, my illness was healed, and I was still healthy even today. And after this experience, I met Ganju Tuku, a famous Vajrayana Theravada, the Vajrayana teacher in Taiwan. That was the year before his passing away. He told me, he said, we all talk about behind you that you are going to be short life because the way you present yourself and the face is not a long life, a sign of long life. But now you have been changed totally. I think it's because your merits are spreading the Dharma, explaining the Sutra to audience. Due to these merits, you have changed your face and you're going to enjoy your life and you're going to live a long, long life. So, in Buddhism, there are a lot of truths and teachings to help us become happy and long life. As long as you're sincere to pursue, all the good fortunes you look for will fulfilled. The almsgiving, there are 3 types of almsgiving. First one is almsgiving or giving away of wealth. And the second one is almsgiving of Dharma teachings. And the third one is almsgiving or giving away of fear. Giving away the wealth is a typical almsgiving. The offering of Dharma is a second type. And the 6 paramita in which the diligence, the samadhi, and prajna or wisdom belong to the Dharma giving. And the last one is called offering of fearlessness. Which one is belong to this item? That is precept, observance, and patience. Why these 2 belong to the fearless offering? Because if one follow the precepts, such as not stealing, then people around you will not be worried about losing money, because they know you observe that precept, you will not steal their money, and therefore your friends around you will not be feared about losing money. Likewise, paramita of patience will give people feeling of fearlessness. Because if they say word to you incorrectly, they know you practice patience. You will not fight back. So they become fearless. So actually, all the 6 paramitas are in one, which is giving away or offering. And that's the main practice of a bodhisattva. If you think about this, and give away your money, give away your illness, give away your pain, give away your life and death, give away 6 realms of reincarnation, then you'll be totally free and liberated. Take example of give away illness for good. I'll give you an example. If you put money aside called health insurance, and that is you have money ready in store for illness one day when you become old or ill. And because you have that preparation mentally and psychologically, you are already creating an illness because your mind has already waiting for that kind of thing to happen. That's why in the United States, I have no medical insurance. I don't have money for that. I give that money away to help other people. And in my mind, I don't have money, so I cannot be sick because I don't have insurance. And because mentally you are not ready for illness, and so far I'm healthy and no problem. Observing the precept does not just have its narrow meaning of following the precepts. It actually means, in a broader sense, to follow all the teachings written in the sutra and given by Lord Buddha and put into practice. One needs to have a thorough understanding and then put into practice. In the beginning, it may not be easy. When you truly put into practice, after some time, you're going to enjoy living in such teachings. To further expand the precept observance, then all the customs, rules, regulations in the society need to be followed. To follow these means when deal with good people, you follow those rules. When deal with bad people or evil people, you need to follow those rules too, and still able to live with them, whether good or bad, in total harmony. So to practice precept observance, we need to cultivate a mind of equanimity. The next paramita is patience. Without patience, there will be no achievement. In order to have a greater achievement, it takes greater patience. In order to become Buddha, it takes the utmost patience. And that's why practice of patience is a very important item for a Bodhisattva. Last night we talked about follow a teacher of a certain lineage for 5 years. It takes patience because during these 5 years you are not allowed to look, read, listen to other things, but only those material permitted by your teacher. We also heard that man's patience is limited. This is a true statement. But in Buddhism, not only patience, we have another paramita, which is diligence. By diligence, one will work very hard in one single direction without distractions. And after some time, due to streamlined efforts, samadhi will arrive. When the samadhi arrives, combined with the original patience, the patience become unlimited. And of course, after samadhi, wisdom will also follow. And that's why one must first possess samadhi and wisdom. Then one is qualified to practice all dhammas. Until then, one need to practice patience and diligence instead of learn all the dhammas. The samadhi in Chinese contains two words. First one, Chan. Second word, Ding. Chan means when interface with external affairs or environment, one does not become tempted or distracted. The second word, Ding, means inwardly there was no thought generated. In the Universe Sutra, the famous student Santai Tongzi went to visit a great teacher. I couldn't find the teacher. People told him the teacher is practicing samadhi in a big mall, like today's shopping mall. So what kind of meditation he's practicing? He's practicing the high-class samadhi. High-class samadhi is in total samadhi, whether walking, standing, sleeping, whether interface with merchandise or not, and no distraction of the mind. And if you practice the high-level, high-class samadhi, then you reach the state of no disturbances or obstacle between when interfaced with reality. And you also reach the harmony between theory and reality. But if your samadhi is only low level, when you see things, your mind start wandering or moving, then you need to quickly return home and practice your meditation. Because low-level meditation cannot make you to be in total unmoving state once you receive the challenge interfacing with external world. Take a look at this example of shopping mall. When you see many objects clearly, that's a function of wisdom, because you know what those things are. But when you think a good merchant and your heart start moving, that means you have no samadhi. So to practice a high-class samadhi, you can go to the shopping mall. You know everything as they are, which is samadhi, and yet you have no thought generated from within your heart or mind. Then you are practicing of samadhi and wisdom are in balance. In Buddhism, the training of a young monk, novice monk, one rule was these young novice monks are not allowed to go to dancing plays to enjoy MTV, so to speak, because they cannot sustain the temptation of the external world. But if you have practiced good enough, then you are allowed to go outside, receive the challenges, and to eventually achieve a perfect balance between samadhi and wisdom. Today's lecture finished at this point, and tomorrow we're going to discuss the 10 great vows of the Samattabhadra Bodhisattvas teaching. Thank you.